Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events.
Post 3 and Depot Street. Truck boy at
Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome to Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. We have arrived at the playoffs. After a week of watching everyone else play, the Detroit Lions get in the action this upcoming weekend against those Washington Commanders. To help us get ready for this matchup, we have invited the boys from the Command This podcast. It's a very good interview. You guys are going to love it. We had a lot of fun talking with the boys over there. Special shout out to Tampa Tones for hooking us up with the boys over at Command This. Probably would not have happened without him. So thank you very much. All right, Jacob, we are here. We are at the playoffs. How you feeling right now?
I feel great, right? I mean, at the beginning of the season, this is what we were aiming for. We wanted the 1 seed. We wanted the playoff at home. And here we are, man. It's time to show up.
It's one step in the process, right? Now we just need to deliver on the next part of our promise, our next goal. That's to get to the NFC Championship game, and it's got to run through Detroit. Just like we had talked about a couple of years ago, all roads run through Detroit. Well, it's true this year. So before we get into the game, since the last time we talked, the All-Pro team has been announced. How'd the Lions show out on that, Jacob?
Very happy with how the Lions showed out on the All-Pro team. So starting with Kirby Joseph, first team All-Pro, somebody very deserving that we talked about. We're kind of concerned maybe they were going to snub him and not give it to him when he needed it or when he deserved it. So that was awesome to see he was first team. Then you've got Penei Sewell, first team All-Pro, Amon-Ra, first team, punter Jack Fox, actually first team All-Pro, and then Frank Ragnow made the second team, and Khalif Raymond made the second team as a punt returner.
All well deserved. I'm hoping to see Jahmyr Gibbs on this list in the upcoming years. I don't know if you saw this about Jack Fox buying the whole of the punt team. Everyone got watches, and I think Hogan Hampton's was like a $4,000 watch. Jack Fox showing his appreciation for his team to get like the highest net punt average in the history of the NFL throughout the season. So
right.
Well deserved.
Awesome.
All right, Jacob. Anyone that's looking to come to the game this weekend that doesn't already have tickets, what are they in for here? What's the secondary market looking like?
Yeah, so the Lions and Commanders divisional round matchup is actually the most expensive game in NFL history outside of the Super Bowl. But any other playoff game, any other game, this is the most expensive matchup. The average get-in price right now is $991. You actually, Jeremy Reisman, Pride of Detroit, posted, but you can buy a ticket for all three other games and still, it won't cost you as much as just the one ticket getting into the Lions game.
Yeah.
This city's ready for this.
They are. I know a lot of people have said, well, we're pricing out the average fan, and unfortunately that might be true. However, people that, doesn't mean that the stadium's going to be less rowdy. I really don't believe that at all. I think that there are fans at every level, every income level, and I think just because the ticket prices are up doesn't mean that that person's any less of a fan than someone else. I want everyone to be able to experience this, and I think everyone deserves to be able to experience this, and I'm sorry that the ticket prices price some people out. But I was at the Minnesota game. The ticket prices were outrageous for that game too, and it was loud in there. And I expect this Commanders game to be even louder.
You think Minnesota's going to spend another $2 million to try to help other fans get in?
Oh my God.
It's over with for them.
Yeah, my favorite tweet was afterwards. I was like, did you ever spend $2 million on something and instantly regret it? Oh, God. I mean, the best part about that was that the Minnesota fans were buying the tickets at a loss to Minnesota and then reselling them back on the secondary market, probably back to Lions fans cheaper than what they were getting. And so it just totally backfired on them.
The Lions have won 4 of the last 5 games that we've played against the Commanders, dating back to 2013. But we have played each other 3 times in the postseason, and the Commanders or Redskins have come out on top every time. And the most recent was the 1999 season where the Redskins beat the Lions 13-27 in Washington. And in that game, Gus Frerotte was the starting quarterback for the Lions. 251 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Do you have a guess of who the leading rusher was that game?
I mean, it was for the Lions?
For the Lions. This was 99. This was going into 2000.
Is it James Stewart?
No, so I don't have if he was on the team, but the leading rusher for that game was Corey Schlesinger with 23 yards.
Fullback. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's not going to win you very many games.
Oh.
The Redskins had Brad Johnson at quarterback. Steven Davis was the running back. He had 119 yards, and that was actually Champ Bailey's rookie season in Washington.
Okay.
So that's how long ago, since we've matched up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
By this time we get one back.
I just remember the 91 championship game because we were one step, away from the Super Bowl. But yeah. So let's talk about this year's team. Jacob, impact players on offense for the Commanders. Who we got?
You got to start with the rookie, Jayden Daniels, right? Quarterback, Pro Football Focus has him rated number 5 out of 44 quarterbacks. Then you've got wide receiver Terry McLaurin, always consistent, ranked number 19 on Pro Football Focus. He was actually a second-team All-Pro this year, and NFL Top 100, he was number 97. You've got Zach Ertz, the tight end, Pro Football Focus, number 36. Then the other running backs, Brian Robinson is actually ranked number 31 on Pro Football Focus. Austin Eckler is rated number 38, and Austin Eckler also made second-team All-Pro as a kick returner.
Nice.
They got weapons.
They do. On defense, first you're going to look at their linebackers. They have 2 All-Pro linebackers and Bobby Wagner, whose Pro Football Focus has rated as the best linebacker in the league. He's also the NFL Top 100, number 59. And you got Frankie Louvu, their other linebacker. PFF has them ranked 28th in the linebacker, but both of them are second-team All-Pro. You got Jonathan Allen up front, defensive tackle. And we got a guy that both Jacob and I are very familiar with, Mike Sanderstill out of Michigan. He's their number 1 corner probably right now. I know Marshawn Lattimore is also on the team, and if he's fully healthy, he's probably the number 1 cornerback. Probably going into next season, he's going to be their number 1 cornerback. You would think if he plays up to his standards. However, Marshawn's kind of been off the last couple weeks, just come back from that hamstring injury. Sandersill's ranked 54 out of 170 cornerbacks, whereas Marshawn Lattimore's behind him actually at 72. With our Lions wide receivers, we'll see if they can contain them at all. Again, we root for Michigan players, but not this week. We're hoping that Mike Sanderstill gets blown up.
Yeah, right.
All right, Jacob. Commanders are 12-5 this season, second in the NFC East. But interesting stat that we found is how are they fare against playoff teams?
Yeah, 12-5, great year for the Commanders. But, counting, if we're just going off the playoff teams, they are 1-4 in the regular season against teams that made the playoffs. They lost to the Buccaneers, they lost to the Ravens, lost Steelers, lost to the Eagles, and then they actually did beat the Eagles later that season. So they're 1-4. I mean, with the win last week, you're going to say 2-4 against playoff teams. So good year, but I mean, maybe possibly a little bit skewed, not performing as much against the better teams.
I will say the caveat of them winning the one game was that's when Jalen Hurts got hurt and Kenny Pickett came in, and that they won in a close game. So we'll see. I mean, the Lions are definitely a playoff team, number 1 seed. This is going to, I mean, they did play the Ravens, but this is going to be,
and they played the Ravens close.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is going to be another big test.
It definitely. But Commanders might be down some people. What does their injury report look like, Jacob?
They have quite a few people on their injury report. A few of these are just listed as rest. So, I mean, wide receiver Jamison Crowder, Zach Ertz, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler. Those are all just players that did not practice due to rest. But the bigger names that didn't practice are going to be linebacker Bobby Wagner, battling an ankle injury, and then the other linebacker who presumably would take his spot, Jordan McGee, also did not practice. So that's not good for their linebackers being down. For them, it sounds good for us.
Yeah. They've also, the kicker is limited, maybe just hitting the doinking one off the post. It probably bruised his ego a little bit, but apparently he's got a hip injury too. Maybe Jake Bates could teach him the stretch moves that he uses on the
We'll loan him
sideline.
his softball.
All right. I don't know if you saw this, but Deron Payne had a finger injury, and it looked pretty gruesome. I don't know if you saw any of this, Jacob.
I
But
actually did not.
He dislocated his finger in the last game, and apparently they could not they couldn't get it back into place on the sideline. So it looked pretty gruesome. He's been limited in practice. It's a playoff game. My bet is that he's going to play, but yeah, that's probably going to affect his play. But they've had a few more. Marshawn Lattimore still dealing with a hamstring. Their other linebacker, Frankie Louvu, has a shoulder injury, but both those guys practice in full. How about the Lions? How are we looking over there, Jacob?
So for the Lions, good news. David Montgomery and Terrion Arnold both got in full practices. Ennis Rakestraw still did not practice. He's had the hamstring, but actually they're calling it due to an illness. Pat O'Connor did not practice. Calf injury doesn't sound good for him. And then Kevin Zeitler did not practice. Hamstring injury. We've heard that he was working with trainers on the side, so don't really know for sure about Zeitler. If he doesn't play, obviously we've got Christian Mahogany's going to slot in. The other player that showed up on the report that did not practice is Taylor Decker, but that is not injury related. It's due to personal reasons. And I don't know if you saw this. I saw online that his wife, I guess, is pregnant and is due this month. So they're presuming that maybe she's in labor right now. Maybe he's about to have a baby. So he did not practice, but I don't think it's going to affect his game availability.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he's a big family man. I hope that he doesn't miss any important stuff with the birth of their child.
Right.
Let's get into, before we get in the interview, Jacob, let's do the rankings. Right now, Commanders, PFF has them ranked 20th overall. And the offense is ranked 15th. However, they are 5th in the league in points scored. They're 7th in the league in yards per game average, 17th in passing, and 3rd in rushing. The rushing stats are due to their dynamic quarterback, Jayden Daniels. How are they looking on defense?
Defense, not as good as the offense. Pro Football Focus has them rated 29th. They have allowed the 18th most points, 13th most yards. Their passing defense actually is ranked in the top 3. They're 3rd in terms of yards per game, but their rushing defense is ranked 30th, which is not what you want to hear if you're a Commanders fan when you're about to play David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. I think it's time we're going to hit this interview. We had a lot of fun talking to the boys on from the Command This podcast. Steve and Dev were great dudes. So check that out. If you're listening to this on Thursday morning, we're going to be on their YouTube live stream tonight, Thursday night at 8:35. If you're listening to this after 8:30, 8:35 on Thursday, I'm sure they're going to have it posted. So you can check us out over there. We're going to talk about our Lions stuff. So you get more Lions talk, just in a different, they'll have the Commander spin on there, but you could kind of hear what we have to say over there. So hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll see you after the break. Hey, it's Jason here. Just wanted to give everyone a quick thank you for listening to us. Aww. One of the best ways that you could support us here at Talking Grit is by giving us a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform. We'd love to hear from you on socials. You can follow us on Twitter at Talking Grit Pod, and also on Blue Sky at talkinggrit.bluesky.social. I want to welcome these two guys to the Talking Grit show. We're blessed to have them on the show. We have Steve and Dev from the Command This podcast. Super happy to have these guys on here. Tampa Tones hooked us up. We're in good hands. We've been talking with these guys for 15 minutes before the show, and I already feel comfortable enough with them. How are you guys doing today? You guys super excited for this Saturday matchup?
So excited, dude. I'm just happy to be here. Like we're in year one of a rebuild or a retooling, whatever, recalibration, as Dan Quinn and Adam Peters were saying. But so we're just happy to be here, man. We're win, lose, or draw. I mean, we're just along for the ride. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. First question, I'm gonna ask you, Dev. How high did you jump when you guys caught that Hail Mary versus the Bears?
Well, it just so happens that I am fat, so not very high, but I did try to jump very high. But yeah, I was super excited. I think my wife we seen it get ready to have my wife. I think she filmed it, but I think I did the robot and Dougie. I did the old John Wall, the John Wall dance from the Kentucky days. I did all that stuff, man. I was pretty hyped. Pretty hyped.
That's great. What about you, Steve?
You
What
guys
was
just
your reaction?
moonwalked over your team.
Well, the Hail Mary was a 4:00 game for us. So my kids were up and we were downstairs. They just watched the end, but I really thought the game was over. I'm like, Caleb Williams went down. He did what he was supposed to do. He got his team into scoring position and it was 15-13. And I was like, okay, this is it. And everyone in the group chat's like, it's never over. Never say never. Jayden had hurt ribs. He made that throw, man. I screamed. I, of course, I filmed it because that's what you do. You film everything, and screamed at the top of my lungs. I was hoarse. I was in shock. And that was the start of like the magic had started. It was great. I jumped so loud. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I was a little bit hoarse. I think I hurt my throat a little bit, but yeah. And I think that moment was the moment Dan Snyder's curse left Northwest Field or FedEx Field, whatever where the Commanders play. At that moment, Dan Snyder's cursed soul left the stadium, and we've never seen it since. So it was a very, very emotional event for us.
Yeah,
Nice.
From my reaction, because you guys beat an NFC North opponent, and at that time, the Bears were looking formidable. I don't know if that was they started out 4-2, so I'm not sure how far after that when that loss came. So we were happy to see them lose, but we had turned the game off because we thought it was over. And then my son is actually the one goes, the Commanders won, and so then we had to go back and look, and it's always fun to see how Bears figure out how to lose a game, and they've done it many times this year, but that was the best one.
And they were kind of our formidable foes for the first 10 games of the season. Like, we played you guys once. Like, stop trying to downplay Jayden Daniels just to bring up Caleb Williams. Like, I love Caleb Williams. He's a product of DC. We want to see him do well. DeMatha grad, not too far from where I live. I want to see Caleb do well. It's not about them competing. Football's great when they're both great. So all these Bears fans just trashing us and trashing Jayden Daniels. And I'm like, for what reason? So for the first half of the season, it was Bears fans were really, getting on our nerves. It was getting kind of stupid there for a minute.
They're very protective of Caleb Williams. They really, they're hanging their hat on him. And I understand it. They don't have ever had a 4,000 yard passer. They always think the next guy's going to be the guy. And he's shown flashes, but they're hanging their hat on him. So we'll see.
Yep.
I'd rather have Jayden right now, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Right.
We all.
You guys really took the wind out of their whole season, though, because they were 4-2, and then they lost 10 in a row after that.
We say, we broke them. Like, in the words of, Ivan Drago, if he dies, he dies. Like, that's literally what happened. We broke the Bears. It's crazy. And they lost so many games, nail biters, and it all goes back to the Hail Mary.
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
Yeah. Both your guys' seasons might have teetered on that moment, right?
100%.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy.
I don't think we've lost since week 12.
Yeah.
Who, for us? Week 12 to Dallas.
Yeah. Yep. And that was that a crazy game too, right?
Yeah, they ran 2 kickoffs back in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
B-Rob fumbled 3 times. We missed 2 field goals or something like that in the extra point. It was crazy.
Cooper Rush looked like a world beater for a little bit there. And we just weren't on our best. And we still almost won, but we just were not on our best that game. Yeah, tough game.
So speaking of beating,
you kind of have that thing too where if your defense isn't quite holding up, if they're scoring, it's like, well, you know what? We'll just outscore you then. We're going to stay in it one way or another.
Yep.
So I want to ask you about Dan Quinn. He's the first coach in Washington history to get 10+ wins in his first season. Obviously, you guys were probably familiar with him from being the DC for the Cowboys. What have been your thoughts of Dan Quinn so far?
Go ahead, Dave. You can take it.
I love him. In fact, I remember on Twitter, if I could find the message, I said whenever they was going after your guys' assistant coach,
Ben Johnson,
we won't name. He said that I said, hey man, if it doesn't work out with Mr. Johnson over there, dog, I'd like to go out to Quinn. And everybody said, we need an offensive coach. I said, man, all you need is a good coach. Start there. And Quinn is the guy. I like him. I love the guy, man. But to be quite honest, I also love Ron Rivera, and look what that got me.
Right.
True. And for me, honestly, Dan Quinn was not on my radar. My remembering of Dan Quinn was the Falcons as a Atlanta Falcons head coach, where they, blew that giant lead in the
Seattle
Super Bowl.
defensive coordinator that beat us in the playoffs.
It was the Dan Quinn blew the lead against the Patriots. That's just, and then Dallas had a crazy good defense last year, but I wasn't super excited for Dan Quinn. Honestly, I was all in on Ben Johnson. I was a Ben Johnson guy. I'm like, Sean McVay was the one who got away. Matt LaFleur was the one who got away. Kevin O'Connell was the one who got away. The entire NFC North almost was the ones who got away from Washington. And so I was like, man, this is the guy. This is the next prodigy. And then Ben Johnson said, I'm staying. And then Dan Quinn was the next guy. So, I was, like Dev said, I was in love with Ron Rivera too, as a military guy, a veteran. But nothing about Dan Quinn really jumped out at me. But I'm sold on this guy, man. What a great leader he is. So,
by the way, what is your guys' story on why your OC turned down the Washington job? Because on our we're hearing that he called us an NBA school and they didn't want to play. And then today we heard that he wanted to keep Howell. That's the newest thing we've been hearing on the radio. That he wanted to keep Howell, and the RGM said, "No, we're going to draft Daniels," and he didn't want to come here and coach Howell, so they turned the plan around. Like, we've heard like so many different stories, but from a Lions perspective, what are you guys hearing?
I find that hard to believe that he, had to have Howell. That was his guy. That's usually what you want as a head coach. Right. It's usually what you want as a head coach. So as you get to pick your quarterback with a high draft pick and then you go, I think that, that loss of San Fran and the NFC Championship really left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. He knew what we have and, the chance that we have this year to build on that. And, he's definitely, like, if the situation is not perfect for him, he's content being offensive coordinator right now. And I don't know if it was maybe, because you guys have the new ownership and everything like that, it was still kind of up in the air. You don't know exactly how things are going to go. You don't know, what they're trying to build, which, I mean, to Dan Quinn's credit, now he's a part of that, right? Now he gets to take credit for the turnaround that they've had. But I just think that Ben Johnson, it wasn't a sure thing there, and he liked what he had here. So that's honestly what we're talking about this year too, because there's still not a guarantee that he takes another, head coaching job. He's definitely, he's content. He's looking for the right spot for him.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the Commanders, to be honest with you. I really think it was all because he announced it like 2 days or that week after the San Francisco loss that he was going to come back. So I know that, it was, the big talk was your leadership was on a plane out to Detroit, and then, he canceled it mid-flight or whatever. I wouldn't take any slight towards the Commanders. I think it's all about Ben Johnson wanted this opportunity here. And I'm of the thought right now that the Raiders are coming on strong for wanting him because of Tom Brady. But I feel like if we don't win the Super Bowl, I would say Ben Johnson's going to be back. We're going to lose Aaron Glenn, but I think Ben Johnson's going to be back if we don't win the Super Bowl. If we win the Super Bowl, all bets are off.
Yeah, just part of the game. I mean,
Well, y'all not winning the Super Bowl because y'all not winning Saturday.
All right.
Get the shots.
Dev, you could talk about this on your podcast when we're on there tomorrow, but we're on a Lions podcast. You could be a little more humble and say, "Oh, I hope we put up a good game."
I could be honest with what you're saying.
We want authentic.
Yeah, you be real, man. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. That's cool.
No, I'm scared to death. Actually, that's the honest.
Yeah,
but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. We got it.
And that's how I feel about Jayden Daniels, though. Like, that's the unknown. That, for me as a Lions fan, that's where I'm like, anything could happen. That's where we got to stop them. And, it's the wild card. But I like the Lions' chances, but Jayden Daniels gives you guys the best chance to win just because we don't know. I mean, he's a really good quarterback. Like, his composure is off the charts for a rookie.
Looking at your guys' schedule this year, who you guys played, so Jayden Daniels having a season that arguably very few rookie quarterbacks ever have had, and he's very dynamic. Even Lamar's first year starting, wasn't even as dynamic as Jayden's. But looking at the schedule you guys played, you're 15-2. There isn't anyone. I see that you guys played Arizona. But other than that, there is not on the schedule. There wasn't a whole lot of dual threat mobile quarterbacks outside of Kyler Murray, and you guys beat Arizona 20-13. So I'm sure that's going to play a factor into this game, is having the threat of Jayden running. You think that's a thing with Jayden?
Yeah.
Defense.
Yeah, well, I could tell you that Kyler Murray, we also faced Anthony Richardson for the Colts, and both of those games started out similar, where the first drive or the first couple drives, Kyler Murray had his way, and so did Richardson, but then the Lions adjusted really quickly. So we'll see if we're able to do that. And Josh Allen tore us up, but I don't think that is. I mean, first of all, it's Josh Allen. He's an amazing player, but we also didn't have Alex Anzalone. Our green dot was not in that game, and he's our best protection against running quarterbacks. So I don't know how fair that is to look. But we bottled up Kyler Murray and Anthony Richardson after the first couple of drives. So not saying that we could do that against Jayden, but I feel pretty confident that, looking at those games, the first drive maybe it'll look a little rough, and then we'll adjust and hopefully keep them under wraps.
Sure.
So that's the game plan, right?
Yeah, let's keep it on Jayden Daniels. Did you guys both want him at number 2 when you guys were ready to draft?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dev for sure did. I was honestly, it was a win-win for us. At the time, I had a preference for Drake May just because I felt, his body, and I hadn't fully watched, I watched Jayden Daniels senior year, but none of his older stuff. So for me, I was kind of more on Drake May, but hindsight's 2020. Go back in time and change that all.
Hey, Dev, if Caleb Williams would have been there, would you have rather had him? Like if you guys had the number 1 pick?
I get that question a lot, and my answer would be, yeah. Like, I would be lying if every year that Caleb Williams in high school was the best high schooler coming out. Caleb Williams, his freshman year of college, was the best freshman in college football. His second year, he won a Heisman. He's one of the best players in the country. Third year, even though he didn't win a Heisman and Jayden did, he was still one of the best 2 or 3 players in the country. So I still believe that Caleb Williams is still a very good quarterback, and that reputation alone would have made me pick him number 1 because I feel like that's a known commodity. You know what I'm saying? Like you do. At worst case scenario, I think Caleb Williams will be at least an all-star game caliber quarterback in his career, man. I think so. You can put, everybody talks about Caleb. What's the name? Stroud. What's the quarterback last year?
CJ Stroud.
CJ, you look at his numbers and put Caleb's numbers side by side. They're not that much different. It's just that they won more games. The end result was different in wins and losses, but the statistics are nearly the same. Mm-hmm. But, people look at him like he's a failure because you compare him to Jayden, and Jayden went right after him. That's going to be the Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning thing forever for that guy.
Yes.
So long story short, my answer would be, I would have taken Caleb if I was number 1 because I felt like I've seen enough, but I would have been wrong because Jayden Daniels is better than him. Mm-hmm. As of right now, Jayden Daniels is better than him.
Yep.
And maybe Bo Nix is too. And maybe Bowers. And maybe Sam Steele. Maybe a lot of these rookies are, But yeah, definitely.
Good offensive class so far. I mean, they were all drafted,
Oh, yeah.
Well, the first off defensive player wasn't taken until the second half of the draft. So, yeah.
Bro, I wanted like 2 years ago when Lamar Jackson was a free agent, I wanted him. Mm-hmm. I was like, you're going to give up 2 firsts. I would do it. We turned those 2 firsts in Jahan Dotson and Jamin Davis, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, who would have cared,
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, sometimes the known is better than the unknown.
And you have to have a quarterback. It's the most important position in sports. You have to have one of those, like a Ferrari, like a Mahomes or an Allen. You have to have one of those guys, or everyone else has to be really good, like the Lions. Everyone, Goff is no slouch. He's good. He's all-star caliber good. But everyone else there's a lot of elite guys around him. Mm-hmm. So if you ain't got that, you got to have a Lamar Jackson or Mahomes or Allen or Burrows.
Yep.
That's my philosophy.
Right on. Jacob, why don't you ask them about the other draft pick that they had, their second rounder?
Yeah, so, we both had talked about, we wanted Sainer still in the second round. The Commanders got him at pick 50 before we had a pick. Obviously, Michigan man and everything, so we wanted him on the team. What are your impressions of him so far?
I mean, We call him Mikey. He's our Agent Zero.
Yep.
Surpassing all expectations. I mean, he was a slot guy at Michigan. We thought he was going to be a slot guy here, but just due to the way we fleshed out the cornerback position, he ended up having to play outside almost the entire season. And he has just been, he leads all rookies in pass breakups. He's like had 14 total this year. He just surpassed my expectations at every turn. And it turns out that, we get a lot of bad second round picks. Clearly he's not in that boat, and he's been able to hang with all the big dogs. No task has been too big or too small for Sainristil. So I am thrilled that we have Sainristil, and there's no need to put him in the slot. He's an outside corner. He proved he can be outside corner. If we get Marshawn Lattimore healthy, him in at 1-2 punch, man, I think we're going to be in a good spot.
Did you just quote Paw Patrol, bro?
What? We're on a roll?
No case too big, no case too small.
Up too big? No, I did not. But
we told him it's a clean show, so he was all about I got to go to Paw Patrol. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah. Rebel on the double.
Yeah. Sainristil used to be a receiver for Michigan, and then they switched him to defensive side. Yeah, he was a receiver, and then they switched him to defensive side.
I'm a DB.
Well, right, but you know what? He plays the ball really well. And he had, quite a few highlight reel, pass breakups at Michigan. So, it's awesome to see him doing well. Obviously, we wanted him on our team, but
yeah.
Are you guys Michigan fans across the board, like the Pistons? And I'm a Kentucky. I like the Knicks, and y'all killed us the other day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Man,
it was a good game.
It was a good game.
But I am a Louisville fan. We did beat you in the Final Four.
Man, don't talk about that. That was a clean block.
It was. I can say that now. Definitely. 2012, I definitely can say it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clean block.
Man.
Yeah, Sainristil, just to get back to him, he just seems to always be in the right spot. He was like that at Michigan, and that's what I liked about him. Like nothing like in his measurables like stand out, but he just always is in the right spot. Just a very dependable player.
Yeah, and it's, if you know our other cornerbacks, we have a guy named Benjamin St. Juste who's just not good at what he does. He was basically our cornerback one to start the season with Sainristil as number 2, and he completely outshined BSJ. It only took 2 weeks for him to show like, oh yeah, that guy Mikey is way better than that guy.
We call him Benjamin Trash Juice.
Oh, yeah, he's struggling.
Yeah, he also was at Michigan.
He was.
Was he?
He was at Michigan. I think, he lost his starting spot. He transferred, was it Minnesota? He transferred somewhere like in the Big Ten, but he was from Michigan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So we know him too. Yeah. One of those where it's like, man, he's still in the NFL. He's still doing this, huh?
Man, yep, still around. He's about to come up to the end of his first contract, so we'll see if they keep him around. I'm not sure.
Right?
Might be in Detroit next year.
No. Right. If you guys keep drafting the way you're drafting, you'll find a replacement real quick. You guys, your draft last year was very impressive.
Thank you. Your draft, I tell you, you got stole when y'all traded Stafford for the best of your whole team.
I know
that's stealing money. Right. Y'all got everyone that draft. That was a good one. I think the best draft we had was we traded the rights to Ricky Waters for absolutely a whole roster of draft picks, and none of them were good. Not one of them.
That's how the Lions have been forever. We would trade away people and then get nothing to show for it. And
outside Barry Sanders and Megatron, who is the guy everybody looks at like the top dog in Lions football history?
Well, if you ask me, it's Chris Spielman, who's our middle linebacker, and now he's in the front office type. That's my guy. But I'm sure if you go back, people older than me, they have. We've had some pretty good players in and out the Lions. Billy Sims would have been a running back in the early 80s. If he wouldn't have got injured, he would have been up there with Barry as far as like numbers. So you could have all sorts. None of our quarterbacks, that you would ever say anything about because we went through a bunch of
Rodney Pete.
Rodney Pete? Yeah, well, you guys know about Rodney Pete, right?
I used to play with him on Tecmo Bowl every now and then. I remember that
guy. Scott, what's his name? Number 19. Scott
Mitchell.
Scott Mitchell? Yeah, you get along.
Yeah. I got one, RoboCop.
So
I love RoboCop. By the way.
I mean, it's we had a run in. Our franchise had a run in playoffs before 1991. You guys under a different name at that time, and
Yeah.
you guys went to the Super Bowl on that. So you're not getting our way this year. Let's hopefully
Yeah.
that plays out.
3 times. You know the guy, you remember that show Webster? Like show Webster, right? Alex Karras, Webster's dad, George Papadopoulos, he played for the Lions.
Yeah,
he had a stint with the Lions.
Papadopoulos.
Herman Moore was another good one too. So Lions got some good. And Matthew Stafford essentially owns Washington, so he's like.
They had a Ware too, a quarter. Andre Ware, Warren Osmond.
Oh, yeah, out of Houston, just run and shoot quarterback, and then didn't. I saw an article on CBS, and the line was Matthew Stafford, an all-time great postseason quarterback, and I'm like
12-0, 0-12 or whatever. Or something.
I'm like 12. What?
Yeah,
he's won a Super Bowl. I mean, he's good, and he probably could have won more in Detroit had we had better coaching because he had the best wide receiver in the game. For first
he basically
part of
joined the Super Friends, though. He basically joined the Justice League to win. When he won one,
they were set up pretty good. I mean, Stafford could do things that Jared Goff can't. I mean, Stafford could do things a lot of quarterbacks can. His arm talent is off the chart. He's very smart, but he will also blow a game really quick too. Like he almost did when he threw that little. I don't know if you watched the Minnesota game. Did that little flick, and it was like, I was like, yep, that is a Stafford play. Jacob likes that play though. He thought it was 100 IQ.
We disagreed. Well, because Puka was right there. He's not going to take the sack. He's right there. He flicks the ball. It's you're basically throwing it away. You're killing it.
But you're up. You're giving the refs a little bit. I wouldn't trust the interpretation on that because they could have called that a fumble if they wanted to.
I thought it was a fumble.
I thought it was a fumble. By the way, you don't want to see Stafford in the last minute of any game, anyways.
No,
you don't want to see it. That guy. He's pretty much 100% at the very end of games. You don't want to give that guy.
He's one of the four teams left in the NFC. So if we, happen to get by you guys this weekend, I don't want to face him in the NFC Championship game.
They got to get through Philly. It'd be cool to see, if we don't make it. Eagles and Rams. I'm sorry,
I don't want the
Rams and Lions championship game would be a pretty good sight to see.
Man. All the storylines again.
That storyline.
Yes.
Oh God, stomach's already turning thinking about it.
What do you think the NFL wants to see? You think they want to see Kansas City Ravens, Washington, Philly?
LA Buffalo, LA Baltimore. LA because of the fires. It's in the script, man. It's coming.
Right.
I'm telling you.
I don't know, man. I don't want to subscribe to all the script and stuff like that. And the Stafford Lions thing is kind of played out from last year, and they started out this season with it. So it's like we played like the first year we went out to LA, and that was like when we traded him out there. That Lions were crap then. It didn't really matter. But the last couple matchups have really meant something. So I don't know, that storyline definitely around here it's played out. Like I'm tired of it. I don't know nationally if it's played out or not, but I don't know. Yeah, you brought up the LA fires though. That'd be like what happened Katrina down in New Orleans, and
2006, 2007. I remember. Yeah. When I saw the intro of that game against Minnesota, I'm like, the concert and the LA Strong. I'm like, there's no way Minnesota's going to win this game.
How come Washington can't use the Capital Six?
That was last year.
Use that as motivation.
You're too late.
We're winning the Super Bowl, bro.
Now what sunk Minnesota is Sam Darnold. You know that. I mean, that was just watching a guy losing money out of his pocket.
Yeah, what happened to that guy the last 3 weeks of the year, man? I was like, man, they need to trade McCarthy and keep Sam Darnold. That guy's the guy. Then the last 2-3 games of the year, like Egypt Air, man.
That was the question that we posed like before the Lions Minnesota matchup was, Darnold hasn't faced that much pressure, and he's going into Ford Field. We'll see what he can do. And, he fell apart. And so the question was, all right, if he does the same thing against the Rams, that's going to be tough. I'm not saying that he can't ever recover and learn from that situation, but he definitely lost a lot of money and probably a starting job next year.
Came off tomorrow.
Yeah.
That game was supposed to be the de facto game of the season for me. 14-2 versus 14-2 for the division championship, the number 1 seed. First person goes to the home field advantage. The next team drops down to whatever seed, the 5th seed, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just such a letdown, man. Was not expecting that.
It wasn't a letdown for me when I was there.
Yeah, not for you guys. As someone with no dog in the fight.
Yeah. No.
I would much rather play Minnesota than Saturday. So I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh man, it was crazy environment in there. The Commanders are going to come into. I'm telling you, Ford Field is going to be lit on Saturday, so it's going to be loud. I know that the reports out there, you guys were practicing with noise, but nothing's going to be able to match that. It's not. It's a crazy environment.
I'm eager to see Daniels on turf.
Yeah. Do you guys?
Well, I believe in LSU he played on turf. I believe. I'm not positive. I thought LSU was
in a dome. LSU in a dome. They are in the Louisiana Superdome, right? Are they in it?
Yeah. Yeah. But tickets. I mean, I was debating like, man, I should just go. And I looked at the tickets. I'm like, because the playoff tickets versus the Bucks were like 125, 150. Man, these tickets were $700.
Yeah.
Are they always that expensive, or that's the byproduct of being the divisional round playoff game?
No. So one of the beat writers, Jeremy Reisman, posted on Twitter that you could buy 3 tickets for the other 3 divisional games for all 3 together for less than going to the Lions game. Part of it is just the hype around this team, and Detroit is a football town, and they've been starving for a team like this for decades upon decades. And a lot of us with season tickets aren't giving them up. I'm not selling mine, and and the other people that are either in it for the profit, so they're going to try to get as much. But even like when the Lions put up tickets just for sale, like for season ticket holders, like the limited amount of extra tickets, what the Lions are asking are like $400 or $500 a seat. When I looked last Sunday, standing room only was
$716. I saw.
Yeah. It was insane. And the standing room only section in Ford Field, do not ever buy those because the site it's bad.
Hey, if we go to Super Bowl, man, I'm selling blood, plasma. I'm going to start my OnlyFans. I'm doing everything I can if we beat you guys to go to Super Bowl. I'm selling Steve, by the way, on Temu.
There's a lot of Lions fans selling or buying tickets for New Orleans right now, and because we've never experienced anything like that. And the ticket prices down there, especially if the Lions get there, they're going to only be increased. I think they said it was like for 2 people, like for lodging, flight, and everything, they were estimating $50,000 to $60,000 to be down there.
Gosh,
I know. I couldn't. I mean, I don't know where they got all those numbers, but I don't know like what ticket prices they were going off. But man, I don't know if I could ever justify like that. My couches. I think I'd rather sit on my couch with $50,000 next to me watching the Lions rather than being down there. But I don't know.
That's right.
Each their own.
Yep.
I don't believe you, man. I believe the Lions have never won a Super Bowl in history. Never been to one. Last year's the best year. If they made the Super Bowl, I believe you would go, Jason. I believe you would find. There's no way you wouldn't go. If you could, granted, I'm assuming you could afford it because I couldn't afford it. I would find a way. I'll probably divorce right afterward, but I would be there.
Yeah. I'll sell Jacob. I'll sell him, do what I have to do. Yes. My father-in-law, like 3 years ago, my boy, I have 2 boys, 13 and 10. 3 years ago, they were starting to get into, sports, getting in Madden and all that stuff. And then the Lions started to, they weren't very good. 13 and 1. And, 3 weeks ago, he came out to me and he's like, do the boys still remember what I said? And I was like, oh, they mentioned it just the other day. And he's like, oh. And I go, but they said they don't want to go because they would be too nervous. My boys get really like anxious about football, so they could not handle seeing like us get there and then lose the Super Bowl. At least that's what they've told me. But I was like, Steve, you're 50 or 60,000's good. You can, we're not going to go to the Super Bowl, but you could throw a big party at our house.
Yeah, still have $48,000 left.
Yeah, exactly. Pop that champagne after the game, maybe.
Yep.
or drink your sours away if you lose, So let's talk a little bit about this upcoming game. The spread is 9.5. It's grown up to that. Are you guys surprised by that, or is that what you guys feel is
a little
correct?
bit? Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, only because statistically, I know you have the number one offense, but we're number 3. It's not that crazy. We average less than a touchdown a game than you guys, and we allow less giving up than you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it'd be a little closer. I know it's going to be 3.5 points for home field advantage no matter what. So maybe take that in consideration. But yeah, I think that I'm definitely going to pick the spread at least. I think we'll be able to score. Now, I don't know if we'll be able to stop anybody from scoring, but
that's what Jacob and we go back when Alex Anzalone was done. We still have a lot of injuries on defense, but it's like we need is 1 or 2 stops and this offense can go. But I was personally
I think we feel the same way though.
Yeah.
I think Washington feels the same way.
Right.
Yep. And I don't blame you. I mean, yeah, 9.5 seemed a little large for me, but I think Jacob said it started out closer to 5.5, and then I think it ballooned up. So the money must have went towards the Lions and pushed that spread.
Yeah, I think they're also trying to get a lot of money on the Commanders for hitting that 9 points. I was thinking it was going to be about 7.5, maybe 8, but 9. To me, when I first looked, it opened up at 10 on Fanatics. So that was, when I looked, it was probably a couple days. I think I didn't look till like Tuesday, but it was 10. So 9 points. I would take the spread on that one. But like Dev was saying, you guys are the number 1 ranked scoring offense, and there's number 7th points allowed defense, and we are the 5th highest scoring offense with the 8th overall for points allowed.
Like just alone on passing yards per game, Detroit averages 342 against. You know what I'm saying? Washington is 326. That's total yards, but passing yards is 244 to 189. Like
a lot of that's also because people are playing from behind, or just the run defense has been much better than the pass defense with the injuries.
That also could be it.
Yeah,
but
I think. Go ahead. Sorry, Dev.
Never know. Like it's just a weird 9 points is a lot. Is it what is 8? What is it? 9 points now?
9. It was 9.5 when I looked last night. I didn't look today yet, but
it's too much for a playoff game. It just seems really weird.
For a divisional round game, especially. I mean, I could see some of those in the first round when you got, you're playing the 7th seed or something like that. But I was kind of surprised by that. I think it's good. I think it probably could be closer. I could see Lions scoring a lot, just having the bye week and coming out. But I could also see it, like a game like the Bucs game where it's going on to the last possession, and we'll see if our kicker's stretched out, and and your kicker's playing with his hair and he's all nervous.
He's injured though, so we'll see.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
9. I still got 9.5 on Fanatics and DraftKings. So
okay,
it's holding with 9. And I think against the Bucs, what were we def 6, 5 or 6 point dogs?
I think it was less than that. I think it was like 3 or something.
3? No, 3.5. 3.5.
Yeah, it was 3.5
at home. So it was a pick 'em. Yeah. But yeah, 9.5, it's okay. I would take the points. I'm not sure about the win, but that's a big spread. Not mad about it.
I'm taking the points for sure.
It's been worse.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, just so you know, Jacob and I both picked Washington to beat Tampa Bay last week. So we were both on your
We called that.
Team. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So you mentioned him earlier. I want to know what's your thoughts on Marshawn Lattimore. So his first week, the first game he played, the Saints didn't throw at him. The last 2 weeks, he's been thrown at a lot. So, I know that he's come back from injury. What's your guys' thoughts on Marshawn Lattimore?
I mean, we were expecting the traditional Evans and Lattimore showdown that you've seen when he was in New Orleans for the longest time. He came to us injured with the hamstring injury. So we had to rehab him. He came out at I'm trying to remember what game it was, Dev. Was it the Saints? Came back for the Saints game. Didn't have one pass thrown his way. And then he did okay at the Eagles game, and then he got hurt again. Then we rested him for the next or he got hurt. Then we didn't see him for 3 games, and he comes back for this Bucks game, and he just did not look like himself. That hamstring still has to be bothering him. But a healthy Marshawn Lattimore would be fantastic. And I mean, as it stands right now, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with this injury report. He had full practices this week, but something just looked off with him on the field versus Evans last week. So I'm not sure, but at full potential, Marshawn Lattimore is a lockdown corner. That's been proven, but that's not the Lattimore we've seen outside of that Saints game. So not sure.
Yeah, I think I think the game plan for last week was to keep everything in front of them. They only had 150 something yards passing.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
Right. I think that eliminate the big plays. It's probably the same game plan we have against the Lions, to be honest. I mean, the Lions are number 1 in score percentage, drives ended in points.
Probably
at like 51.6%. Washington's number 2 at 50.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? So I think that the thing is eliminate the big plays. And I think that was our game plan last week with Lattimore. It looked like on a touchdown is that he was playing the outside and they were looking for Quan Martin to play a slant, and he was a second late. It looked like it went right over his head for the touchdown to Evans. So I wonder if it's just some of the plays they did get were miscommunications. But everything looked like a pick play underneath to me, besides that touchdown pass.
Yeah, Marsh. I mean, it's got to be hard for a cornerback to come in like that late in the season, and because it's all built on communication back there. If you're playing man, maybe not as much, but even that, you're going to pass off to the safety or something at some point. You gotta know, you gotta be able to trust that.
that whole
that's hard.
That's it. And I think that a lot of that communication happened in the Evans game where he thought he had help. He didn't have help, just that, familiarization, like you said, just the playing time. It's not there.
Yeah. All right, Jacob, I'm going to let you ask.
All right. Well, so the pass defense for you guys, though, has not been bad, but the run defense is ranked towards the bottom part of the league. Why do you think they're struggling with the run?
Go ahead, Dave. You can take that one.
We're trash.
You've got really good linebackers, right? And I mean, the defensive tackles,
we got 2 all-pro linebackers, and we only start 2 linebackers, so that means all of our linebackers are all-pro. Yet we're still basically bottom barrel buckets in the run defense. I can't figure it out either. You would think if you have John Allen, who's also been all-pro, and Pro Bowler in Payne, and then a legitimate first-round talent picked in the second round in Jahmyr Newton, they'll be able to at least open up run fits for the linebackers who are all-pro. But it hasn't seemed to work all year. I will say this, though. Against the run, we have allowed some guys to get off for like a quarter, and then usually we stop that really quick and we get on top of it. Like Saquon did it. I think another couple running backs did it too. Had a pretty good first and second drive, and then after that we kind of locked it down. So I'm hoping worst case scenario for us is that what happens. But you guys have Ren and Stimpy, I guess. Is that what you call those guys?
Man, those 2 guys.
Tom and Jerry, you got those guys. Linus and Charles.
It's signed knuckles on your shirt, man.
28 touchdowns between them, man. 28 touchdowns. That's stupid.
That's some bad guys. I absolutely love. I drafted Gibbs, by the way, in one of my leagues. I love those guys. Jealous.
Really good 1-2 punch.
Like Dev was saying, there's a little bit of context and nuance with that number, with the run defense being so bad. Yes, statistically on the whole, it's bad. And I think it puts us at near the bottom of the league in yards allowed, like 31st or 30th, I think. But like Dev said, these guys will get off for two quarters, first 2 quarters, and it's almost like clockwork. The first half, these guys are getting like 95 yards, and we're like, "Damn, are we going to stop the run? Are we going to stop? Who is it going to be today? Is it going to be Tracy? Is it going to be Aquan? Is it going to be Najee Harris? Is it going to be who I forget who the Cowboys guy is? Who is it going to be? Alvin Kamara did it to us too. But that second half, Joe Witt Jr. always finds a way to adjust. And as a fan, it's frustrating because you want to come out even keel across the whole game. So it could happen. He's really good at figuring out halftime adjustments coming in the third quarter. So yes, while that number is frustrating being so low in the league, it is a little bit nuanced because you don't see them giving up a lot of running yards on the back half of the game, which is crazy. Like I thought Bucky Irving was going to have a field day. Started off great. Second half didn't do anything. So it's somewhere, but I don't think we've faced a tandem like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So just put.
Yeah. Well, Dave Montgomery is come back from his MCL strain, whatever it is. And yeah, he's ready to play. It's going to be interesting to see how strong his knee is. If he's able to break tackles at the rate he was breaking before, that'll be exciting to see. And yeah, but even if he can't go, Gibbs is the number one for
Problem.
a vast majority of teams. So we're lucky to have that.
He almost had 2,000 all-purpose yards. That's insane.
You know,
It's insane.
My little like film study of the Lions or my little watching of the Lions here recently. What I found amazing though, he doesn't receive the ball a lot. And when if you just think of it, you're thinking, man, this guy does everything. But he doesn't have a lot. I think he had like one game where he had like 6 receptions, but he hasn't had any games over like 4 outside of that. He's not really a factor in the screen game, which I feel like that's what I would use him all the time on. I would use him like we used to use Chris Thompson. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he would be unstoppable in the Eckler Chargers role. But they basically use him as an actual running back, and it doesn't feel that way on the out until you like look at it.
I will say that, especially with David Montgomery's healthy, they're not on the field together. So he's basically on the field half the time in an ideal situation. Montgomery's on half. That limits his chances. There's been all sorts of talk about especially this last training camp of him getting Gibbs on the field at the same time as Montgomery, but what the Lions are all about are creating mismatches. So you want Gibbs up against a linebacker as opposed to a slot corner. Because if we got him up against slot corner, we have Amon-Ra, Khalif. Those guys are wide receivers. They're better at running the slot than Jahmyr would be. So it's all about creating mismatches. On another team, I bet you Jahmyr has a lot more catches. He's probably featured a little bit more. But the reason why he's so strong late in the year is that he's not getting overused early in the year.
He's got less miles put on him thanks to that timeshare. He's just really, really, really efficient. Which is crazy. He's only started 4 games technically on the books. That's what I looked at, which is insane for the numbers he's putting up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's basically, I don't know how they're going to do in this playoff game because it really depends on David Montgomery. But generally, Montgomery gets the first series, so he technically gets the start, and then Gibbs will come. They flip-flop series is how they typically do it. Now, playoffs they'll change things. They did last year. The Gibbs played a lot more in the playoffs last year, and then Montgomery's got the wild card of being injured. So I don't know how they're going to do it this year or this week, but that'll be a good story for the game for sure.
Yep.
All right, guys, we got a couple questions. We'll wrap up with a couple questions. First is, I want to know, we'll start with you, Steve, and then Dev, I want you to answer as to who's going to have more rush yards in this game. You got Austin Eckler, Robinson, or Jayden Daniels. Who, if you had to pick out of those 3, who's going to have the most rushing yards for the Commanders, not the whole game?
I'd say Jayden Daniels. It's been that way for the last 6 weeks maybe of the season. Brian Robinson has been trending down. It's combined with a decrease in the quality of our offensive line. The first half of the season, we're if you guys are familiar with how football, line play, we're pulling guards, we're running counter trays, we're running traps, we're running the Washington, Redskins offense from the Joe Gibbs era, the power running football. Everyone's pulling, tight ends are pulling. We're running, 3 tight ends to one side of the field, and we just kind of stopped doing that. And so our run game has become anemic outside of Jayden Daniels, who's creating those things by himself, on naked boots or read options. So I think it's going to be Jayden Daniels 100%. Although I think Eckler will probably have more yards than Brian Robinson because Eckler's back. He's just so fast. His feet are so fast. He has great vision, and Brian Robinson just lacks a vision. So give me Jayden Daniels leading the charge for the rushing game for the Commanders.
What about you,
I
Dev?
agree. I agree. I think it'll be Jayden all day. And I think the reason we stopped running because we realized Jayden was good. I think at that point we realized we'll just go with this guy. You know what I'm saying? He's way better with the ball in his hands than Robinson. Let's go with this guy. That's how it felt. When Eckler went down with the concussions, it felt like that without Eckler in the lineup alongside of him, taking the pressure off Robinson, it felt like he just wasn't running as good. Like you can look at all the other running backs drawing the 4-point-something yards per carry, but in the last 6 games or so, but his is like 2.9. Like it just can't. He just leans on the offensive line as soon as he gets to the line. I can't figure out if he's got the yips or something. It's something weird going on. I can't explain it. It all started with the Dallas game. We fumbled those 3 times. He hasn't been good since.
Yeah,
but still young. Hopefully, we'll get Genty or someone in the draft this year.
You know, my opinion,
when your quarterback can stiff arm somebody on 3rd and 1 and make a big play like that, you know.
Yeah, he's a $125. You know,
Levante David chasing him with a towel, running him down. Yeah. So Chris Rodriguez is the guy who a lot of us like in the Washington space. He doesn't get enough recognition. He's been cut twice and brought back. Every time he gets the ball, he falls forward and finds those positive, yardage. He's almost averaging like 5 yards a carry, and he just never plays, never gets the ball. You hardly see him, but every time he comes in, it's very little time. So would love to see more Chris Rodriguez. I doubt we will though, because he was inactive against the Bucs, unfortunately. So they love Brian Robinson for whatever reason.
Rodriguez, I think he's from Kentucky, right? He was really good in college.
He is a Kentucky guy. Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Right, Jacob.
Guy.
All right. Last question. What are your predictions for the game? So it doesn't have to be the score, just anything about the game that you think is going to happen. If you had to make a prediction for something that's going to happen.
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Lions average 33 points a game. We average 28. I think you guys average more points against, which isn't really a fair. I guess you guys allowed 20.1. We average 23 against. I'm going to go 30-27. Washington, I'm going to go. I love Eminem, man, but I'm picking my,
he'll be at the game.
I'm sorry, mama. Yeah, you think so?
He usually gets a suite. He was at the Minnesota game. The Lions, whatever hype crew, whatever, they will put him up when we need the crowd the loudest, because he definitely hypes up. Everyone loves Eminem in Detroit, and they did two things in Minnesota. Hutch was on the sidelines for that game, and apparently on the TV they had him all over the whole game, and everyone knew there. But in the stadium, they never put him on there. It was in the fourth quarter. It was a big 3rd down. They put him on the screen for the first time, and it got the loudest it had been in the stadium. So they do the same thing with Eminem. When they need the crowd to get extra loud, they'll play Lose Yourself, and then turns into a concert for a second, and then they'll show Eminem up in his sweet box with Haley and his other family members, and yeah, it's live. So
he's almost like the de facto ambassador for the Lions from a star perspective. We're still building that around here. We got.
I was starting with RoboCop. I'm sorry.
we have Matthew McConaughey and Dale Earnhardt Jr. probably our biggest.
What? Wale?
Fans. Well, yeah, Wale. Yeah, Wale. But Matthew McConaughey is probably the biggest one for us.
Mom, no hands.
For me, I'm a little more skeptical. I think it's going to be like 30-27 Lions. We're gonna hit the over. I think the over is 55.5. I think we'll bust the over. I think the Commanders will cover that 9.5 for sure. I think it's so. Our last 7 games have been the last 7 games we played. We won, and we've won them from the very last game from scrimmage. And I think it's going to be. This team has just been found a way to stay resilient and a way to just go back and forth with everyone. And this will be a true measuring stick for this team. I think we'll fall a little bit short, 30-27, but like we talked about earlier, this is house money for us. Like win, lose, or draw, happy to be here. This is experience, because it takes winning. You got to learn how to win, and this is year 1 of a rebuild. So, if we lose, I'll be pissed, but I'm just happy to be here, man. This team is way further along than it should be. What, Dev? Am I supposed to say they're going to win?
Yeah, look, man, you can't.
I'm subjective, man.
This is just, we're so used to getting beat up every year. We're not used to being good. So everybody says, "Oh, we're not supposed to be good." But man, we got 11 Pro Bowl alternates and 4 All Pros, dog.
Yeah.
I don't know how much better you're supposed to be, bro. We got 12 wins, man. You know what I'm saying? 12 wins, 4 All Pros, 11 Pro Bowl alternates, dog. You're supposed to expect to win. You're not supposed to expect to go out there. Oh, I hope we do well. You know, that's crazy talk, man. We're not the Giants, bro. You know what I'm saying? We're not the Bears, man. You know, they're sitting there in Cabo somewhere. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys did lose. You guys lost to the Bucks earlier this season, who we just beat. To the Bucks.
Yeah,
but you lost to the Bills too, who, you know, a lot of people lose to the Bills. They're one of the best.
No, they don't. A lot of people don't lose to the Bills. Bills will be 2 winning teams, bro. They're in the worst division in football.
I mean, we did the same thing. We barely beat. I don't know how many winning teams we beat. One.
That's my point. That's my point, Steve. See, they do the same thing we do, but nobody says, "Oh man, I'm surprised they're winning 12 games." But they're surprised we're winning. We got more All Pros and Pro Bowls than the Bills. The Kansas City Chiefs ain't even got a Pro Bowl quarterback, bro.
Yeah,
they ain't even got a Pro Bowl quarterback this year. They got one Pro Bowler. They got one Pro Bowler on defense, and they're the number 1 defense in the NFL. Explain it.
15.
But we got 11. We got 11 Pro Bowls, and it's 4 All Pros, 2 on defense. You know what I'm saying? And then and everybody's telling me, man, we're just happy to be here. No, man, you should expect to win.
Well, that's about the expectation level, right? Like before the season with the rookie quarterback, the new head coach. I mean, you know, no one really knew what to expect. You talk about, now in the preseason, talking towards next year, now you've got the target, and now the expectations are higher.
Exactly. You win.
7 wins.
You asked, we like 6, 7 wins. I would have been happy with 5 or 6. I'd been like, hey, man, we're looking up. But hey, that was then, dog. That was 4 All Pros and 11 Pro Bowl alternates ago.
Yeah.
I'd say this is how we felt. I don't know about Jacob. I don't want to speak for you, but going in the NFC Championship last year, a lot of people use that term that you use, Steve, house money. Like, oh, we've won our 2 playoff games. They haven't done. That's more than we've done in the last 60 years. And now we're in the NFC Championship game. And going into that game, I thought San Francisco was a better team. I thought, okay, I just want to have a good showing. I want to show that we belong. The Lions belong in this game. But then we showed that we more than belong, and we probably should have won that game had we not blown it in the second half. But it's all built on expectation. So I could get where your viewpoints are. I can get where yours is, Steve. You're happy to be there. I mean, you're looking at the future and you're thinking, hey, we got something to build on. And Dev, I like your your attitude too. Like, no, we shouldn't be happy just to be here. We can win this game. I like that. I like both your viewpoints, and I think they're both valid. It's all about expectations. And Steve, I think that you think, hey, I not that you're discounting your team, but you're just trying to be not homerish, I guess, is what
Yeah, I take the emotion out of it. I'm very subjective. I don't say we're going to win every game. I've picked us to lose many times this year. We didn't. I just this one thing I will point out though. This team has been like a team of destiny. It's been really crazy how we won a lot of these games this year. It's just really hard to explain to anyone who hasn't been watching. It's very hard to explain. I don't know how to explain it. There's games I don't think we should have won. We ended up winning. We ripped off 4 in a row, then 3 in a row, and then we won our last 6. It's like, holy smokes. So there's something to that too. But from the odds makers in Vegas, they go off facts. They go off what they see, and they're spotting 9.5. So there is something to that too.
I think something that you just sparked an idea in my head. Like Dan Campbell, when we were losing all those games, and then we went 3-13, then we went 1-6 to start his second year. He basically said we just need to figure out how to win games. We're there. We're just losing them, one play here, one play there. And for you guys to have figured that out in the first year of this rebuild, part of that's, having a rookie quarterback that's playing way higher than expectations. And, that the fact that he's already tried to he's already figured out how to win these close games, that's only going to serve better for you guys in the future.
Yeah. And one of the things I admire about the Lions is, when they were in Hard Knocks and people were not clowning. They were like, Dan Campbell just hired a bunch of players for coaches for his staff. Well, look at them now. Those players ended up being fantastic coaches. Mark Brunell, Glenn, like these guys ended up being really, really, really good coaches. And I feel like it was a model that the Commanders kind of followed, that Dan Quinn kind of followed. You build your team with talent, but instead of players, Dan Quinn found a bunch of former head coaches. So we have a lot, we have the head coaching experience on our staff with Kingsbury and Anthony Lynn. So that the Lions model is a good model to follow. I think we're kind of following it, tangentially, but I think we're following that same model. So, defensive coach, head coach, defensive coach. We have a defensive coach, offensive coordinator talking about getting plucked. They're talking about plucking our offensive coordinator. So that's just the nature of the beast when you have a defensive head coach.
Yeah. I think the thing that gets lost when you can't duplicate like, oh, we should just hire former players. No, you have to hire the right former players. You got to have people that know ball. I mean, they're going to command respect from their players just because they've been in that spot. So you have that starting going forward. But if you do not make that player better, if that coach doesn't make that player better, they're going to tune that guy out just like they're going to tune a guy out that never played a day of ball in his life. The players want to get better and they want to win, and the coach better provide that for them. That's why like everyone's like, who's going to hire the next Dan Campbell? Dan Campbell's a one of one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that can lead. I'm not saying that there's no one not a better coach. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you can't just go in and say, oh, we're going to hire the next Dan Campbell. No one like him. He leads unlike anybody else. He gets people to fall behind, get in line. Everyone's in lock and step in this organization. It's really nice to see. Not saying that what the model you need to take is you need to find leaders. Like that's what he's hired. Aaron Glenn's a leader. Ben Johnson's a leader. Those are guys that players will follow. And that's the model that you need to take. It's not about hiring, the next Dan Campbell. It's about taking that overall, like everyone needs to be in lockstep. And, it's hard to explain, but you just can't, like you said, the Commanders are taking they're taking that little model, but they're taking it to, they're doing their own thing.
For sure. And these guys would run through a wall for Dan Quinn. It's crazy the camaraderie he's built in this locker room. We thought we had that with Ron Rivera a little bit, but it's just different. Like these guys, all they talk about is each other and Dan Quinn. All they talk about is Coach Quinn. Like how many times Dev, I can't tell you the last time players talked so good about coach as opposed to this year. And we have one of our assistant quarterbacks coaches, your guys' former backup quarterback, and David Blau.
Yep.
Just doing that out there too. So
I like David Blau in Hard Knocks too when he was there in the Lions.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
I would take it back to Ron Rivera probably got a bad shake just because of the ownership group. I mean, I'm not
100%,
like
100%.
into because like I like Ron Rivera when he was with Carolina. I don't want him to go to the Bears because I don't want them to have a good like leadership person over there. They don't need any of that over, in our division. But I think for me, Ron Rivera probably just I don't think he's a bad coach. He just had, just a bad ownership group and they just couldn't get it. The priorities were different.
If they had just allowed him to coach, I think he'd been fine. But he was also not only a coach, he was a guru, a spiritual advisor, a shaman. He was that guy like washing cars in the driveway, turning the lights off at night. I mean, dude, just bring him here to clean. They just bring him here, plunge toilets too while you're at it. That's what we still end up with sewage on the field. Ha ha. Remember that incident? But definitely, if he had just been here to coach, I think his career would have been better. Dan Snyder's just a terrible, 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 terrible person and owner.
Yeah.
So
owner and just a human being in general. It just sounds like he's 100%. A mess. Yeah. All right. We appreciate you guys being on for so long. This has been an awesome conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we do, and we're still invited for tomorrow on your show.
Wait. What's y'all scores? You never told us y'all scores.
Oh, you want us to do our?
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know what y'all going to say.
Man, Jacob doesn't like to do this. He thinks that he's superstitious. So
we have a lot of people that don't do it either. So
I don't want to jinx anything. So that's my whole thing.
He thinks we're going to win. He told me before the podcast. He said,
"No.
Don't tell Jason. Well, y'all going to beat us." That's what he said.
52 to nothing. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah, Redskins, what is it?
Yeah, I don't know what the Commander score is going to be. I don't want to put any points on you guys. I feel we're going north of 40. I'm just going to say
Y'all gonna put 40 burger on us?
I think we're going to
get
north of
42.
We'll see. I mean, it's fine.
That
I mean,
could
I'm
happen.
going to be there cheering, and I won't have a voice on Sunday. And if it's 42-40, as long as the Lions come out on top, whatever, we get to move to the next round. But I think the Lions are going to be really motivated and come out, and I think they're going to start hot, especially having that week off. I think they're going to be ready to go. That's my personal feeling. But Jacob, are you going to say anything, or are you wanna keep it to yourself?
Now, if we're saying points, I'll say we're hovering around 30. I don't know that we'll
30?
score 40, but I mean, I hope you're right.
Yeah, I feel it's
also
gonna
the
be
faster we score, the faster we give, more opportunities we give them to score.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's why I'm on the Bills.
Yes, 48-42.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that score. Oh man. All right. So Steve, Dev, why don't you tell our listeners where they could find you and what you got guys going on this playoff week?
Yep. I'm Steve Lim _DC, or you can follow Command This at Command_This on X. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, all the socials. We live stream every Monday and Thursday with a pregame and postgame. You can catch us anywhere. Just Google Command This podcast and you will see us there. And we have our pregame live stream tomorrow with you guys as our honored guests. And we'll be back Monday for the postgame, regardless of how that works out. So thanks for having us, and hope to see you guys out there.
Yep. Dev, can they find you on Twitter and stuff too?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Hello I'm Dev. Also on the same podcast as Steve, Command This podcast, Mondays and Thursdays, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. We do it live on Facebook. I mean, not Facebook, we're YouTube. And Twitter. You can follow us on Spotify as well, man, which is where I listen to it, and everywhere else.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you guys for coming on. I checked you guys' podcast out before I got on, so I knew what I was getting into. I knew we were in good hands, and you guys did not disappoint. So thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks for having us, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, Jacob. Those guys were a lot of fun to have on. So I
absolutely
really enjoyed the time. Yeah, it was good, and we play them next year, so hopefully we get a chance to hang out with those guys a little bit more. All right, Jacob. This is it. This is the key point. We're in playoff time, right? So we got to get to our keys of victory. I'm gonna let you start off. What's your first key to victory?
I feel like I say this all the time, but you know what? Play Lions football. We have to run. We have to run the ball. We have to run the ball well. Let that open up play action. Let Jared Goff, catch them sleeping. It can be done. Their run defense is towards the bottom. Obviously, this is the playoffs. They're going to be coming out with everything that they have. We've got a bye week. I trust that they're going to be prepared. We have to have success running the football.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're talking with the guy. Steve made the point that the Commanders are quick to adjust at halftime, and they seem to be able to bottle the run up after that. It could be too late for them by that time if we're already running. And also, they have not faced an offensive line like the Detroit Lions. And that is when the Lions running game really starts getting cooked, and is in the second half when we're smelling a victory and we just need to keep the ball. And I have a feeling Dave Montgomery is going to be fired up for this game. And I hope that he comes back full strength and be able to help us out, because having
Definitely.
that 1-2 punch back, it's going to be awesome.
Well, that's what helps in the second half, too, is the fact that defense is going to be worn out. And, by that point, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs that maybe he's only touched the ball like 8 or 9 times. He's fresh, and he's ready to break off, a 60, 70-yard run. If you're, these linebackers, these defensive linemen, they're going to be tired battling.
I agree. And then, like you said, they get tired, and then they start getting punchy and jumping up the line, and we hit them with a play action pass and hit Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, or Sam Laporta over the middle. Boom. And we could take advantage of them that way too. My key to victory is similar to what we did with Sam Darnold. Rattle. We got in Sam Darnold's kitchen and we rattled him. We need to, the crowd needs to be into it. We need to get Jayden Daniels off his game. He showed incredible composure this year. I watched that whole playoff game with the Bucks. The moment never seemed too big for him. So I think it's going to take a lot to rattle him. But I think what we could do is if we could just keep him contained in the pocket, have gap integrity, do not let him get outside the pocket, and just make him throw and not use his legs. That's going to be the most important part.
Yes, I'm interested to see, can he be rattled? He's a rookie. We don't really know yet. We knew with Darnold, we get to him, and I mean, things start to break down. You don't know if that's the case with this guy. And you're right. The pressure never seemed like too much last week. He had that one play where he took that shot, had the cut. They ended up having to tape up and everything like that. Didn't slow him down. He didn't hesitate. He's still stiff arming that linebacker towards the end of the game. I mean, this kid's ready to play. So my next key to victory, with that is just we have to make sure that we have to limit their 3rd and 4th and short. They're like us. If they have a 4th and 2, there you have no shame in going for it. 3rd and 1, it's going to be very hard to stop that team. And if you do stop them on 3rd down, they're probably going to try for it again on 4th. And when you have somebody like Jayden Daniels, the playbook's wide open. You don't know what they're going to do. So I think if we limit them, to those short yardage abilities, that's going to go a long way and help us get more stops on defense.
I agree. It's their run game. We just need to, like you said, they treat 3rd down like 2nd down, like kind of how the Lions do. So if they get to a 3rd and 5, they have no problem running the ball, and you better be ready for that, because if they could get to 4th and 2, then they're super hard to stop because they got RPO, they got whatever Jayden Daniels want. They can run him, and that's going to be just difficult to stop. So we just need to keep them behind the sticks. Don't let the run game. Don't let them get into anything 3rd and manageable. Keep it long. Daniels was just so hard. It's going to stop on those in the Bucks game. He was constantly able to extend to get to 1st downs. It's going to be really important for our linebackers to read their keys and stay, on our edge people to stay disciplined and hold the edge and do not crash too hard and let everybody do their job.
Definitely. I mean, they're, the mobile quarterback thing has haunted the Lions. The perceptions that we, can't hang with the mobile quarterbacks, and that, they just carve us up. And that hasn't been the case this year. We just have to stick to what we've been doing. And, I trust that Aaron Glenn's going to have a good game plan. He's going to call it the right way.
Yep. I'm all trust in Aaron Glenn. He put up a monster game plan against Minnesota. He's had 2 weeks. I know that they basically, from what the Lions sounds like from their coaches, they didn't plan ahead for any of the teams. That first week was a lot of self-correction. They did like some 3rd down stuff. It was a lot of self-assessment, because you think about the Lions, they didn't have their bye week was so early, week 5. How are you going to self-scout for 4 weeks? It's early in the season. They're closer to training camp than they are to the end of the season. This coaching staff typically would do a lot of self-correction in the first week, a lot of self-assessment. We weren't afforded that opportunity, so they used that this first week. So I looked for them to look like a lot of their tendencies, to correct a lot of that, and just be ready for the moment when we're going to have to rattle this quarterback. Like you said, I don't know if it's possible. We'll see. We'll see if it's possible to rattle this quarterback. But if any environment can do it, it's Ford Field, right? I mean, and even if it's not necessarily rattling Jayden Daniels, it's getting their offensive line to jump offside.
Yes.
It's getting a delay a game. Those 5 yards are so important. And my over-under on would be like 3.5, whether false starts, delay of games, or timeouts, forcing them to call an early timeout. You get someone to call an early timeout in a what could be a close game, like in the 3rd quarter. That's a win. Getting to burn that timeout, and then we get the ball back at the end of the game, and we can run an extra 40 seconds off the clock because we made them burn a timeout.
Yes.
You got any? I got some other stats that I think are important to look at when you come into this game. Do you got any
go ahead.
keys to victory? All right.
No.
So Washington uses man coverage at the 5th highest rate in the NFL, which is very good for the Lions because Jared Goff excels at destroying man coverage. He had a league high 71.3% completion percentage against man this year. He threw 20 touchdown passes and not a single interception. against
Like
man
those
coverage.
numbers.
Yeah, so that's good. Washington runs a lot of man. Great for us. I look for Sam Laporta to continue his hot streak. I think he's going to be vital. He's going to be a first down machine. I had talked about, I think in the bye week, I don't know which podcast, I expected him to have a really good playoffs. He, in weeks 13 through 18, he generated 273 receiving yards on targets in the seams, third most among tight ends, and was only one of 5 tight ends to catch multiple touchdowns. Those are all the next gen stats.
Yeah.
He started out slow this year, but he's come on late, and I expect him to just continue that in the playoffs.
Definitely.
Another player that might be able to attack is Marshawn Lattimore. Mike Evans ate his lunch last week, and Marshawn Lattimore is a very good player, but he's obviously playing injured. We talked about it with the boys over at Command This. Secondary is all about communication. He's coming in late, and the communication's obviously not there. You got a great route runner in Amon-Ra. If you get matched up with Marshawn Lattimore, that's a huge advantage for Amon-Ra, and I expect him to take advantage of that. All right, Jacob, anything more you want to add?
No, man, I'm ready.
I am so ready for this game. I can't wait to be there. I'm glad it's Saturday night because then we get to we both have. Do you have Sunday off? You're not
Yes.
working, right? Yeah.
Right.
So we got Sunday off. We can just live in that zone for a little bit and hope if it comes out the way we think it's going to happen. Yeah, if it comes out the way we think it's going to happen, and we got a week. We got 1 week to gear up for another huge matchup. So. Let's get into our grit picks.
Grit picks.
All right, Jacob. How'd we fare last week?
All right. Chargers at Houston. Morgan picked with us last week. So Chargers at Houston, all 3 of us picked the Chargers. It was an ugly game. Justin Herbert, what a time to have the worst game, of your season. His receivers weren't really doing him any favors either, but it just, drive after drive, just couldn't get it together. And, the Texans, I think they were behind like 6-0 almost at the end of the first half when they scored the touchdown. Just a really weird game.
CJ Stroud throws 2 picks in the first half, and you still go in to halftime losing 10-6. And so deflating.
Right.
With the Chargers.
Yeah, we all picked the Chargers. We all expected more. And I mean, honestly, watching the first half of the game, I still expected the Chargers to come out and pull that out. And they did not. Steelers at Ravens. We all picked the Ravens. Thought it was going to be pretty, a pretty rough game for the Steelers. And it was. They just, looked like they didn't belong.
Yeah. They did not look like a Steelers team. They did not look like they played hard. I don't know. And then Mike Tomlin not going for it on 4th and 1 or whatever. I don't care what side of the field you're on. I know that we're in the whole Dan Campbell mode, but you're the Steelers going against Baltimore Ravens, like the number 2 offense. You're going to need to keep up with them. You cannot keep giving them chances. Steelers need to take chances on their own and not play conservatively. And I like Mike Tomlin, but I did not agree with those decisions.
Yes. No, me neither. It was just weird.
Yep. All right. Denver at Buffalo. I picked Buffalo. Jacob picked Denver. Started out right. I was waiting for a text from you, like after Bo Nix threw that long touchdown. The text never came. I thought for sure you're gonna be gloating. Like I called it.
My friend is a Broncos fan, and after that first touchdown, I texted him. I just said "boom" all capital letters, and that was the only boom the Broncos had. Yep. It just went really far downhill after that.
It did. Even Sean Payton called out the fake punt. Jack Fox would have been proud of the throw the punter made over there, but then they ended up having to punt again that same drive. So just really deflating. All right, next game we'll look at, Jacob. Green Bay at Philly. How do we pick that one?
Well, I picked Philly. You picked Green Bay. I don't know if that was wishful thinking because you wanted to play Green Bay or you just wanted Philly to lose.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Both, but
Jordan Love looked terrible.
Well, I will say that the NFC North was a big winner because of what you just said. Jordan Love looked terrible. Both of those NFC North quarterbacks, we'll get to the other game later on, just really poop the bed, man.
Right.
Looked bad. Washington at Tampa. So the team that we're going to face this week came out on top. We have both picked Washington, and it came to fruition. That was a fun game. That we had talked about it leading in, that we thought that this would be the most competitive game, and it truly was. And that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yes. No, it was a great game.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't realize, like, fourth quarter snuck up on me, like, towards the end, and then Commanders just had that thing where they would go for it on fourth down, and they're running the clock all the way down, and you realize Tampa Bay's not going to get another chance with this ball in this game. And and then you hear the doink, and then did you know it went in right away?
I thought that it went in. I mean, it wasn't like how typical, it was far enough on the inside of the post. It looked like it went in. But, there's a second where you freeze, like, oh, man, you're waiting for the ref. Like,
I know.
I can't imagine being a Commanders fan. Like,
oh, God, I can't imagine that either. Maybe we'll ask the command. We didn't talk about that during the interview.
Right.
But maybe we'll maybe ask them how they felt about that tomorrow when we talk to those guys. All right, Jacob, let's talk about the last game, this game that was on Monday night, Minnesota at Los Angeles. How'd we pick that one?
We said the Rams were going to do it. We did not believe in Sam Darnold and the Vikings. We both picked the Rams, and it was even worse than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be a good game for the Vikings, especially earlier in the season. They lost the game to us, and then they played the Rams right after, and they lost the game to the Rams. Didn't have a good game, but this was just so bad for Sam Darnold and the Vikings. I mean, really, Darnold played terrible, but I kind of think that, Kevin O'Connell got out coached there too. I mean, it just was the scheme wasn't working. Nothing was working for the Vikings. And it just was almost like they laid down there at the end. It just, they didn't really threaten at all. And then they're still trying to run the ball towards the end, and, it's just not working. Yeah. Just really weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. I mean, Sam Darnold cost himself. Did the Lions break him? Was the pressure break him? I don't know. I felt kind of disappointed that the Rams were able to keep that offense under wraps. It like made me second think of like what we had done the week before. Is it this easy? But no, the Vikings had played well all season. So I just think the Sam Darnold lost himself in the pressure, and superior coaches won that. Even though Kevin O'Connell may win Coach of the Year, which would be really disappointing after how his team looked in the last 2 weeks.
That'd be a consolation prize for him.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. If Dan Campbell doesn't win, I'm going to be upset about that. All right.
We talked about this. Historically, they don't give it to the best teams like that. So
I know.
He's most deserving, absolutely, but
yeah, it's just with the injuries and everything what we've had to overcome this year.
Right.
Not many teams could do that. So
no.
He deserves it. And I think the vote came out after the Minnesota Vikings game. So I'm hoping that how we played in that game, how the teams looked, plays a factor into that and pushes our guy over the top. But
yeah,
we'll see how it goes. All right, let's move on to this week's game, Jacob. First game is going to be Houston at Kansas City, a game I'm really looking forward to. We talked about this a fair amount at work today, and I don't know where you're going to lean. I'll go first. I'm going to say Kansas City does pull this one out. However, I know the spread's large on this one. I could see either team winning this, but I'm going to go with Kansas City.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, this could go any way. Honestly, I think the Texans could just blow away the Chiefs. I also think the Chiefs could surprise and beat the Texans by double digits. I think the difference for this is just going to be that the Chargers shot themselves in the foot so much last week. The Texans gave them plenty of opportunities to take, and they just didn't do anything with it. The Chiefs are a veteran team, so they're not going to make as many mistakes, and they are going to make you pay when you make those mistakes. So I do think the Chiefs are going to win this game.
Yeah, I think you're right on that assessment. The Chiefs are not going to make those. They're not going to have those unforced errors. However, if there's any defense set up to beat the Chiefs offense has not been superior this year. But I mean, I think the edge players for Houston could get to Patrick Mahomes, and if they get him to throw a pick, an untimely pick, they might be able to take advantage of that. So we'll see. I think Kansas City wins, but I see a situation where Houston wins this game too.
Yes.
All right. So the next game on the docket is the game that we're both most excited to see. It's Washington at Detroit. We do not pick the game, but we're going to pick an over-under in this game. And the over-under right now was set at 55.5. Jacob, you go first. Are you going over or under 55.5?
I think you still have to go over. I mean, our defense looked really good last time, and hopefully we're able to put some more stops up and control the ball a little bit longer. With the Bills game, I know I mentioned that already, but we scored often as well. So then they scored often, and that's how the score got so high and got a little bit out of hand. If we get back to what we're normally doing and have those longer drives, they take 5-6 minutes off the clock, and then we're able to score and stop them, then I could see a situation where it's going to be under and we still win by a lot. But if I'm a betting man on this one, I think I'm going to say over.
I'm going to go with the over on this too. However, if we dominate with the run game, then I could see this going just being an under just because more clock's going to be run off.
Exactly,
of
right.
This game. But we'll see. Lions on top anyways. But yeah, I'm gonna say the over 2. I'm typically an under man, but I think in the interview I said the Lions they asked me a prediction for the game, and I said the Lions are going to score 40. So if the under, that would be Commanders would score less than 15. So I think
we'd be okay with that.
Go. Yeah, and I'm totally fine with that. All right, Jacob, next game, Rams at Philadelphia Eagles. What you got on this one?
I mean, this is the one we're going to be watching closely, right? Hopefully by the time this happens, we've already won our game, and we're going to be playing one of these two teams for a shot at the Super Bowl. The Rams looked really dangerous last week, and I know it's going to be tough playing in Philly. The Rams definitely, are capable of upsetting them, and if they play like they did last week, it's going to be a really close game. Just looking at it, like, who do I want to win? Who would I rather play? I honestly don't know if I'd rather play Philly or LA right now. I'm going to say the Rams win a close game.
Okay. I'm right with you, man. I don't know who I'd want to play either. They both have their advantages and they both have their pitfalls. I don't want to face Stafford with the chance to go to the Super Bowl. I just don't want that. For me as a fan, I don't think the Lions maybe look at it like this, but for me as a fan, I just don't want to lose to Stafford and go to the Super Bowl. I don't want to feel that extra pressure. But also, I think Philadelphia is a pretty good team, and I don't necessarily want to face them either. I'm going with Philly wins this in a close game, but I really struggled with probably the 3 games outside of the Detroit game. I really struggled with who would win on any of those games. I think whereas last week was a lot of blowouts, I'm thinking that these games are going to be just a lot more competitive. I'm at least hoping for some really good really good games. Outside of our game could be a blowout with Detroit and a stress-free win. But the other ones, I hope they're all game. And hopefully the Rams and the Eagles just beat the crap out of each other. I'm not saying I want people injured, but if they got extra bruises and stuff like that,
right.
I'm okay with that. If they're feeling sore for a couple days afterwards, I'm okay with that. All right.
Yeah, the Eagles are actually 6.5-point favorites right now in that game.
Yeah.
You'd have thought it'd been a little closer. So
yeah, the spreads are really, really strange in these games. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter with who's the better team. It's all about where the betting's where money's being put. But I don't know. I'd have a hard time giving 6.5 points to the Rams. Just seems seems large to me. All right, Baltimore at Buffalo for the last game. Jacob, who you got in this one?
Man, this is the marquee matchup, right? Ravens are favored right now by 1 point.
Yep.
At Buffalo. This has all the makings of a classic playoff game. This could be a really good game. The only thing I would say would be holding this back is the weather. I don't know what the weather's like in Buffalo right now. It's going to be cold, but that's one of the things where we differ because I prefer them to play indoor football.
Playoffs, I
I
would
know
rather
you
have. I don't really want weather to be a factor. I want my
right.
playoff teams. I'd rather have that decided by the teams as opposed to some external factor.
Yes, that's why. Yeah, I prefer the indoor thing. I mean, this one could go either way. Last week I took the Broncos upset the Bills. I think this week I'm going to say that the Bills beat the Ravens.
All right, I'm going the other way. I'm going Baltimore over Buffalo. This really. I know the spread even says this is a pick'em game. I really think it is. We'll see. Buffalo's looked really strong at some points this season, but then against the Rams, they couldn't stop them. And even against the Lions, we don't have a fumble from Amon-Ra. We might win that game too, just outscoring them. Baltimore's offense is no joke, and even if weather is a factor, weather comes in, you got Derrick Henry, and they can overcome that. So I'm gonna take Baltimore. Though,
Follow up question.
yeah,
Sorry, so let's say the winner of this game is who we're going to make it to the Super Bowl. The winner of this game is who we play. Would you rather play the Bills or the Ravens?
oh man, wow. I mean, I know we lost to Buffalo earlier this year, but I having Alex back is a big
Right.
deal, and I think that the Lions would. I like our chances against Buffalo again. I think the Lions would be tough to beat twice in one season. Um, I still have a bad taste in my mouth from Baltimore last year,
Yes. Right.
and I'd rather they're the team that I probably want to face the least in the Super Bowl is Baltimore. Um, they're just set up to they're a very tough matchup for the Lions. Just really tough matchup. I mean, they're tough matchup for everybody. The Ravens are a very, very good team. So I guess I would go Buffalo. Where are you at?
No, agreed. I want another shot at the Bills. Plus, I think the Bills Lions Super Bowl would be good for the league, it'd be good for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think we can take them. I think, you definitely have our hands full with the Ravens.
Yeah.
Hoping somebody else can take them out.
Yeah. Out of the big three, if we're pushing Houston out or whatever.
Yeah.
Baltimore's the least one I want to face. Who would you rather face out of Kansas City or Buffalo?
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like the Mahomes factor just in the whole like the Chiefs own the refs. I don't like that factor. Although we went into Kansas City and beat them last year. And you know what? I wonder if Mike Tirico would give us an asterisk because Hutch is out, right? I mean, like, would we get the
Yeah.
asterisks? Like Kelsey was out, Chris Jones was out, Lions won, but with an asterisk. Will we get the asterisk if we were to lose the Super Bowl because our best player on defense is out? Multiple good players are out on defense, but I don't know. I digress.
I never
but,
understand the asterisk.
yeah.
You got to play with the hand you're dealt, right?
Exactly. You mean you're playing with the people on the field, right? And would I love to have Hutch out there? Yeah. And will I see him in the Super Bowl? I doubt it, but if he does, oh, get my popcorn ready because I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
One thing we forgot to do earlier because we haven't done it in the last few weeks is Monty versus Gibbs. I'm gonna let you pick, so we'll do this late. Monty versus Gibbs. Do you have who you gonna go with?
You got to go Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll get Monty.
if you heard,
yeah.
if you heard even what David Montgomery had said when they talked about him, like, he's like, Ja's a generational talent. And he kind of said, he was like, whatever he needs, I'm going to make sure he has, but it's kind of Ja's show. Just, kind of a veteran thing. I think he realizes the injury and realizes the fact he's been on a tear and everything. It's going to be interesting. Like, I would assume that Ja's going to get the start. He's going to get the first series, right? And then you mix Demo in. It'll be like the opposite. Or do you put Demo back where he was before and do like you did earlier in the season?
I don't know. I think you don't want to start slow, right? And they might want to see, I don't know, or maybe they put Dave Montgomery out for the first, not even like, they might not run series and series. Maybe they run like, get him out
Just
there,
make it
get the crowd
play.
into it with Dave Montgomery, give him the first run, and then take him out and just see how he performs. I am going to be excited to hear because the last game they introduced the defense, and that was when Alex come back. So they will introduce the offense this time. So Dave Montgomery will get introduced in this
that's
game.
gonna be cool.
and I'm really excited to be in the stadium for that. And I'm also excited to see him suited up and then being out there for warm-ups and what the crowd reaction to that is going to be. Having this at late game, fans get in there early. I said the last game with Minnesota, it was basically a playoff game. 3 hours early, and there's a line to get in the door, and the stadium's already packed, and they're already cheering at warm-ups. So I'm expecting it to be just as live, probably more live for this game.
Absolutely.
All right, Jacob, before we get out of here, we got our grit guarantee.
It's time for the Grit Guarantee.
I say Monty and Gibbs each score a touchdown.
Solid.
Yeah. Not too crazy, but that's what I'm going to go with. What's yours?
My grit guarantee is that I think that Gibbs is going to go for over 100 yards rushing.
Love to see it. Yeah. That's not too crazy either. Although Monty just surprises us all and busts like a 50-yarder. And yeah, I'm excited for this game. It's going to be so much fun to be there. So it's late, or is Milo going to stay up and watch the game with you?
Milo will stay up and watch with me. He'll have his
Okay.
Lions gear on. He's going to stay up and watch.
All right.
It's funny because we stayed up. We were watching the Pistons and Knicks game until the Vikings and Rams game started. And he stayed up, and we turned on the Vikings and Rams game, and then, he passed out on the couch. He can't hang that late, but he tries, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think I was telling you this at work. We're watching the Minnesota. My family, we watched all the playoff games together. And my wife would always say, the AFC teams that she's not as familiar with, well, who do we not want to face for the Lions? And I was like, it's kind of early. There's a lot of matchups going on, but, we talked about that. We're watching the Rams Vikings game, and she is like super into it. Like Darnold misses some throws because she doesn't want to see Stafford. She does not like Kelly Stafford, doesn't want her like in her space. And so she's like, he's missing throws. She's like yelling at Sam Darnold. And I was like, I looked at her, I said, what have you become? And she goes, I don't know.
You created that monster.
I did. But it was great. It was a great weekend. I know the games weren't that close, but as far as watching football with my family, I really enjoyed it.
And we don't, that's never happened, right? We don't get the 1 seed. We don't get wild card weekend and just relax and know that, there's no pressure.
And there was a blessing that we found out Saturday that the team we're going to play, as opposed to having to wait till, Sunday night. We got to find out Sunday night as opposed to wait until Monday. And then it's either like, okay, we're going to play the same old boring team, the Vikings that we just played 2 weeks ago. That would have been boring, especially for this podcast. I don't know what we would have done. And, because it would have been a rehash of a game we just saw 2 weeks ago, or the whole rehash of the Rams Stafford thing. So we avoided all that and had a lot of fun to talk. And we got to meet the guys over at this. Yeah.
For now, the Stafford thing might be coming back.
It might be. So, all right, Jacob, we've rambled on long enough. Anything else before we head out of here?
No, man.
All right. Thanks again for the boys over at Command This Podcast. Can't wait to talk with them tomorrow night. I hope everyone has a good, safe weekend. Hopefully it's a very enjoyable Saturday night. Just be safe and don't do anything stupid. Don't drink and drive. Just wherever you're at, just stay at. I hope everyone's safe. So for Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.